Blood ran down her thigh, mixing with the dust. The summer heat in Red Hollow was brutal, the kind that cracked the earth and cooked a man's thoughts. Lila Jennings stumbled across the open plain, barefoot, her clothes torn to shreds. Each step left a mark of pain behind her. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to keep moving. Her body was covered in bruises. Her breath came in broken gasps. The sun beat down on her shoulders, and the wind carried the sound of her fear. Somewhere far behind, she swore she could still hear laughter, that kind of laughter that follows you out of hell. When she reached the edge of the ranch, her knees gave out. She fell hard into the dirt. The world spun, blurred, then stopped at the sound of a man's boots. Samuel Briggs stepped out from the shadow of his barn, 56 years old, beard gray at the chin, eyes sharp as a hawk. A man carved out of the land itself. He hadn't spoken to a soul in weeks. But what he saw lying in front of him stopped his breath cold. The girl was a wreck. Dust clung to her skin, her hair stuck to her face. Tears had carved lines through the grime. Her voice cracked when she tried to speak. "Please," she whispered. Then her hands trembled as she clutched what was left of her torn clothes. I need to take it off. Please, help me." Samuel froze. He had seen wounded men, dying horses, even friends shot dead right in front of him. But this was something else. This was what a broken soul looked like. He said nothing for a moment. Then his voice came low and steady. "Come inside." Lila staggered to her feet and followed him into the small cabin. It smelled of coffee, tobacco, and old wood. Samuel poured water into a basin, grabbed a clean rag and a bottle of whiskey. The room filled with the sharp scent of alcohol and blood. He cleaned her wounds, careful and slow. The girl didn't cry. She only bit her lip and stared at the floor, silent, shaking. When he asked her name, she whispered, "Lila." Samuel nodded, saying nothing. He had questions, but he could tell the answers would hurt to hear. Outside, the wind picked up, moaning through the fence line. Inside, only the ticking of a clock broke the silence. He looked at her again. She reminded him of someone, his sister, Mary. She was 16 when soldiers came through the valley. He'd been away that night, buying cattle. By the time he came back, she was gone. That guilt had lived in him ever since. Now, staring at this broken girl in front of him, Samuel felt something old wake up. The same anger, the same helplessness. But this time, he wasn't going to walk away. "Drink this," he said, handing her the glass. Lila took it, her fingers trembling. She looked up, eyes red but steady. "Are you going to send me away?" Samuel didn't answer right away. He looked out the window, at the land stretched endless under the sun, then back at her. "No, you're safe here." The words hung heavy in the hot air. For the first time in years, Samuel Briggs felt the storm building again in his chest. He didn't know who had done this to her. But he knew one thing for sure. If the devil had a face in Red Hollow, Samuel planned to meet it head on, and the question that burned in his mind was simple. Could a man who'd lost everything once save someone this time before it was too late? The sun was setting when Samuel stepped out on the porch. The sky burned orange, the color of old wounds. Inside, Lila was sleeping, her body finally giving up to exhaustion. He watched the horizon, quiet, the way a man watches a storm rolling in. For years, Samuel had chosen silence. No visitors, no friends, no damn trouble. But tonight, trouble had walked right through his door and bled on his floor. And for some reason, it felt like it belonged there. He went back inside. Lila stirred when she heard the floorboards creak. Her voice was soft, still raspy. "I didn't mean to cause you no harm." Samuel shook his head. "You didn't." He sat down across from her, poured 2 cups of coffee, and slid one her way. Steam curled between them like a fragile peace treaty. "Who did this to you?" She hesitated. Her fingers wrapped tight around the cup, knuckles white. "The mayor's sons." Her eyes dropped to the floor. "They said my daddy owed them money. But he's been gone near a month. The fever took him. They came anyway." Samuel's jaw tightened. He had seen their kind before, men who thought money made them untouchable. Men who believed pain was theirs to hand out. He leaned back, took a long breath. Those boys ever pay for what they do? Lila gave a bitter laugh. In this town, they don't pay for nothing. Samuel looked at the fire, the light flickering against his face. Something hard settled in his chest again. He remembered the soldiers. He remembered Mary. And he remembered doing nothing. That was the part that still burned. He stood up, slow and steady, like a man making peace with a bad decision. You can stay here for now. Lila's eyes widened. You're not afraid they'll come. Samuel looked toward the door. They can come if they want. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't empty. It was heavy, full of something unspoken, maybe hope, maybe just anger wearing a different face. Lila set her cup down and met his eyes. I don't want to hide forever. Samuel nodded. You won't. He turned to hang his rifle back on the wall, but his hands hesitated. Then he changed his mind and set it on the table instead. The old iron looked right at home there, waiting. Outside, coyotes howled somewhere deep in the valley. Inside, Samuel Briggs felt something he hadn't felt in 20 years. Purpose. He knew this wasn't just about one girl anymore. Red Hollow had been rotten for a long time, and someone had to clean it up. He blew out the lantern, leaving only the glow from the dying fire, and in that quiet room, with a wounded girl and a loaded rifle, he whispered to himself, if they come for her, they'll have to go through me first. But what Samuel didn't know was that the riders were already on their way. The sound came slow at first, hoofbeats, faint, steady, growing closer. Samuel knew that sound. He had heard it too many times before. Back when trouble wore spurs and smiles, he stepped to the window and looked out across the open plain. Dust was rising, 6 riders moving straight toward the house. He didn't need to count twice. 3 of them were the mayor's sons. The other 3 were hired guns. Lila came down the stairs, her hair loose, eyes wide. They found me. Her voice cracked, barely more than a breath. Samuel nodded once, calm but cold. Upstairs. Loft above my room. Don't make a sound. She hesitated. Samuel, please don't do something stupid. He gave a half smile. Too late for that. When she disappeared into the loft, Samuel checked the rifle. It still smelled of oil and old battles. He walked out onto the porch, sun cutting sharp across his face. The riders slowed to a halt about 20 feet away. Their leader, Thomas Berkeley, the oldest son, gave a fake smile. Afternoon, Mr. Briggs. Heard a young lady came by your way. Goes by Lila Jennings. Samuel leaned against the post, rifle in hand, but low. Haven't seen no young lady? Why, Thomas grinned. Stole from the bank. Daddy wants his money back. Samuel let out a dry chuckle. Funny. I didn't know the Jennings girl worked at a bank. That wiped the smile clean off Thomas's pick. The sheriff spat in the dust. Mind if we look around? Samuel straightened, his shadow stretching long across the dirt. You got a warrant. The sheriff's jaw tightened. Don't need one if you got nothing to hide. Samuel looked down at his boots and then back up. Steady. Funny thing about the law, out here. A man's land is his castle. An uninvited guest, well, they ain't welcome. For a second, no one moved. Wind carried the smell of sweat and gunpowder waiting to happen. Then Thomas tugged the reins, turned his horse around. We'll be back. Old man, Samuel nodded slowly. I'll be right here. When the dust settled, he went back inside. Lila was sitting on the edge of the bed, tears in her eyes. They called me a thief. My father was the most honest man in Red Hollow. Samuel sat down across from her, voice soft. They're scared. Scared of losing the power their money bought them. But fear makes men stupid, and stupid men make mistakes. He poured her a glass of water. Outside, thunder rolled far in the distance. It wasn't rain, it was the sound of war coming to Red Hollow. So tell me something, partner. If you were Samuel Briggs, would you stay and fight, or pack your bags and run? Take a sip of your coffee, or maybe that evening tea. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. And if you don't want to miss what happens next, you might want to hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started. The storm finally broke that night. Wind howled through the valley, carrying the smell of rain and gun oil. Lila couldn't sleep. She sat by the window, watching lightning split the sky. Every flash lit the fear on her face. Samuel was still awake, too. He sat by the fire, cleaning his rifle again, in the same way some men say their prayers. When she came down the stairs, he didn't look up. Can't sleep. She shook her head. Been thinking. He poured her some coffee. It was bitter, strong, and too late in the night for it. But it gave them something to hold on to. They'll come back. Samuel, you know that. He nodded. Yeah, I know. Lila leaned forward. What if we didn't wait? What if we went to them? That made him look up. To them. She took a breath. The bank, every deal, every fake loan, every name. It's all written down. If we can get proof, we can end this. Samuel's brow furrowed. You're talking about breaking into a bank. That's a hanging offense. So is what they did to me. Her words were quiet, but sharp enough to cut the silence. Samuel looked into her eyes. They weren't just scared anymore. They were determined. He leaned back, thinking, Old man Berkeley's too cheap to fix that back window. Always said no one's dumb enough to crawl through broken glass. Lila smiled for the first time in days. Guess he never met us. By midnight, they were in town. The rain had turned the dirt streets into rivers of mud. The bank stood dark and silent, just like every secret it kept. They moved like shadows. Samuel went first, clearing the way, his boots sinking without sound. Lila found the broken window. Her hands shook as she pulled herself through, but she didn't stop. Inside, the air was thick and stale. Samuel followed close behind, lantern in hand. They didn't talk. Didn't need to. She headed straight for the file drawers. Her fingers moved fast. Sure, like someone who had spent too many nights organizing her father's store ledgers. Here, she whispered. Samuel brought the light closer. Row after row of names. Women who had settled debts, false signatures, and money moved through fake accounts. The list was longer than sin. This ain't just a few bad apples, Samuel muttered. This is a whole damn orchard. Lila kept copying names, her writing fast but clean. Outside, thunder rumbled again, closer this time. When they were almost done, Samuel froze. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming from the front door. He blew out the lantern, grabbed her hand. Voices echoed from the lobby. Check the back. I saw light. Samuel's heart pounded. He pressed a finger to his lips. Lila nodded, clutching the papers to her chest. Through the darkness, he could make out the sheriff's voice. Well, well. What do we got here? Samuel tightened his grip on the rifle. He knew there'd be no talking their way out this time, and the next 5 seconds would decide whether they'd live long enough to see the sunrise. The first light came slow over Red Hollow. Smoke still rose from what used to be the town bank. The fire from the night before had burned through the roof, leaving only black bones and silence. It took days for the smoke to clear, and even longer for the truth to reach Denver. But when it did, the law came riding fast, like thunder rolling down the plains. Samuel and Lila stood on the hill above it, watching the lawmen ride in. This time, they weren't the sheriff's men. These were federal marshals, sent from Denver. By noon, half the town was in chains. The mayor's sons, the sheriff, every man tied to that rotten tree of corruption. When the noise settled, Samuel looked at Lila. Her face was calm, almost peaceful. She had been through hell, but somehow she had come out stronger. Your father would have been proud, he said. She nodded, eyes glistening in the morning sun. A few weeks later, Lila stood in front of the old general store that once belonged to her family. The government had returned it to her, along with more than she ever expected. Samuel came by, hat in hand. You could rebuild this place, make it bigger than before. Lila smiled. I could, or maybe I could use it to help others who lost everything too. He smiled back, a quiet kind of proud, the kind that doesn't need words. And as they stood there, a warm summer wind swept through the street, carrying the dust of a new beginning. People in Red Hollow still talk about that night. Some say it was justice, others call it fate. But the truth is simpler. It was a choice made by two people who refused to stay silent. Because sometimes it only takes one person brave enough to stand up for others to find their voice, and sometimes that one act of courage can change the whole damn town. Now I want to ask you something. If you were Samuel Briggs, would you have done the same? Would you risk everything to protect someone the world had already turned its back on? Take a sip of your drink, lean back, and think about it. And if this story moved you even a little, hit that like button. It helps more than you think. Then tell me down in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I'd love to know. Before I end this video, I just want to take a minute to speak from the heart. I want to thank every single one of you for supporting this channel, for watching these stories, and for leaving kind comments, and I've read many of them. Some of you are watching late at night, and I truly appreciate that. But please, take care of yourselves. These videos are meant for comfort, for reflection, not to keep you from sleep. If it's already late where you are, maybe it's time to close your eyes and rest. I also want to say I'm sorry if I can't reply to everyone. Truth is, I'm not as young as I used to be. After long hours editing these videos, I often feel tired. That's why I try to take better care of my health. And in doing so, I've learned to care more deeply for all of you too. So thank you, truly, for being part of this little corner of peace we built together. Take care of yourselves, get some rest, and may tomorrow bring you calm skies. And now tell me, what do you think justice really means?